think the best thing for people in Hollywood that are entrenched in that world is to shut the fuck up. Because as soon as they start talking, people as soon as Robert De Niro starts talking, I'm like, Jesus, get that fucking microphone away from him so I can enjoy Taxi Driver.
Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome. He's one of those, I'm moving to Canada if he wins, and he's never going to leave the White House if he wins. We're going to have Trump forevermore. I mean, hello, I hate to break it to you because I realize you're advanced age too, Robert, but people die. So he will leave. One way or the other, he's going to go.
Robert De Niro thought he was waltzing into a polite political pillow fight. He had no idea Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly came armed with flamethrowers. One moment, De Niro was ranting like he was accepting an angry Oscar, and the next, he was getting folded live on air, like hotel laundry during a 5-star scandal. Rogan dropped a line so sharp, it had Megyn Kelly wheezing with laughter, clutching her chair like she'd just watched a Hollywood train wreck in real time. And De Niro? He looked like a man who just realized Uber doesn't deliver comebacks.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the fuck up, man.
If Robert De Niro had $1 for every political meltdown he's thrown, like a method actor trapped in a never-ending monologue, he'd be rich enough to buy a private island where no one dares utter Trump's name. But instead of peace and palm trees, he chose a louder path. Raging on award show stages, fists flying in the air, swinging at invisible enemies like he mistook the teleprompter for a heavyweight contender.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing. You've had this life where you were a fucking raging bull. You know, you were in The Godfather. Like, stop doing this.
Man.
Don't do this.
I'm terrified to meet some of those people I looked up to now.
You should be.
I mean, like
I've met a few of them, and it's actors in particular, because their whole business is pretend. Their whole business is pretend.
And just when it felt like no one could stomach another red-faced tirade from a man best known for playing make-believe mobsters, two media powerhouses stepped into the spotlight uninvited and utterly unsympathetic. First up was the podcast king himself, Joe Rogan, who strolled into the chaos like he'd wandered onto the set of a terrible political stage play, then tore the script apart with a verbal sledgehammer. No warm-up, no warning, just a cold dose of reality delivered with surgical precision and a smirk that said, "This isn't art, it's delusion."
To the people shouting him down like, your movies suck, that's not true.
No, his movies are very good.
Suck. He's one of the greatest actors. I mean, he's the heir apparent to Brando, blah, blah, blah. But he's a loon.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to just say what he is. He has, basically, I describe this to people. You know what's happening now? Because people are aware about concussions and the problems with CTE. When you get hit and you get a dinger in football, they put you in the blue tent, and the sideline.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen to Democrats. They need to go in the blue tent for a little bit, kind of, get your eyes checked, and then come out and be rational again.
Yeah, cool off
and
a
De
little.
Niro needs to go in the blue tent. I mean, because it's not calming things down. We need to be rational.
While De Niro was busy unraveling into a one-man Shakespearean meltdown, right there in front of golden statues and yawning celebrities, Joe Rogan was miles away, perched in the comfort of his podcast fortress, launching verbal grenades with pinpoint precision. He didn't need to name names, oh no, but let's just say, the shoe he described slid on so perfectly, it might as well have been handcrafted by a vengeful Italian cobbler with a grudge and a flair for drama.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks that.
That's what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men,
and
they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Told him that was a good idea?
And then he started...
Rogan didn't have to say De Niro's name. He just painted the perfect portrait of a certain kind of actor. The kind who mistakes playing a tough guy on screen for having real-world geopolitical insight. According to Rogan, there's a special breed of celebrity who believes that reciting lines about honor and justice in a mob flick somehow earns them credentials in public policy. You spend 30 years pretending to be someone named Vito, and suddenly you think you're qualified to lecture the country on democracy? That's like a barista thinking they can advise NASA on rocket science because they stir coffee with extra flair. With his trademark tone laid back, half amused, half stoned, Rogan delivered a masterclass in casual destruction. He didn't rage. He just dismantled the Hollywood delusion with the kind of precision that hits harder than a UFC knockout. De Niro, though never directly mentioned, might as well have been the headliner, the unofficial poster child of the episode. A living reminder of how a once revered actor can slip from gravitas into grievance and not even realize it's happened.
So Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in conference right now, as all of the muckety-mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions.
And then came Megyn Kelly. If Rogan was the chill assassin with a smirk, Kelly was the storm with a spreadsheet. Where Joe laughed at the absurdity, she arrived with the energy of someone who's been collecting receipts for years and was now flipping through them with the gleeful precision of an IRS auditor at tax season. She didn't name De Niro either, but let's not kid ourselves. She torched the idea that pretending to be noble on screen somehow grants you a voice in shaping national policy. Her commentary zeroed in on a brutal truth. Many of these celebrities want the spotlight of political influence without lifting a finger to understand a single policy. They treat award shows like campaign rallies, minus the hard work, accountability, or debate. Their standing ovations aren't earned through ideas, but through name recognition, Wikipedia pages, and a few blurry photos from Cannes. To Kelly, this wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. Because when these Hollywood stars play moral messiah in echo chambers filled with flattery, the only ones left to challenge them are the waitstaff, who are too professional to say a word.
And then he starts yelling at regular people.
Well,
He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you. Like,
it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
You know what also I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going, right? Mm-hmm. So your vision of the world, your actual vision of the world, your ability to read a phone. You ever see old people's text messages? The fucking text on their phone is like as big as my hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so your vision of the world is blurring, literally and figuratively, and then you're getting old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Get off my lawn!
It's a feedback loop of glittering nonsense, a glamorous Groundhog Day where the same speeches echo to the same crowd, met with the same hollow applause. But Megyn Kelly, never one to let a golden cow graze unscathed, zeroed in on the hypocrisy and ripped it wide open. She yanked back the velvet curtain to reveal the absurdity of actors living in fortified mansions, shielded by private security, claiming to speak for the everyday voter. These are people who lecture the nation about justice from a podium shaped like an Oscar, then glide off in cars worth more than most people's life savings. And Kelly's scorn was razor sharp, slicing through the illusion with one central message: authenticity matters. People are done being lectured by millionaires who've spent the last 10 years in makeup trailers, being told they're brilliant just for hitting their mark. Eventually, the costume comes off, the lights fade, and all that's left is a man who once played a boxer, now flailing at invisible political enemies like it's still a movie set. And the brilliance of this takedown? It wasn't a coordinated attack. Rogan and Kelly didn't team up. They didn't have to. One's a former MMA commentator turned podcast emperor who probably suspects Kale is part of a government plot. The other's a media lawyer turned broadcaster who can shred faulty logic faster than most people can blink. They're worlds apart in style, tone, and philosophy, but when the absurdity is this loud, You don't need a plan to call it out.
Make of that.
Well, it's a global problem because it's the greediness of these studios and some of these actors that, make a lot more money overseas than they would here. But I look at the film industry in the United States, and my father worked in the film industry in Boston. He was a transportation coordinator for the Teamsters Union. So I know a little bit about it. I look at the film industry as we have some of the most creative people in the world.
Rogan thinks it's absolutely hilarious that actors take themselves so seriously, like Shakespeare, in designer shades. Kelly, on the other hand, finds it downright horrifying. The tones couldn't be more different, but the message hits the same. Robert De Niro has drifted from respected statesman to a walking punchline in a tuxedo, and the wildest part? He has no idea it's happened. That's the genius of these indirect roasts. They're not designed to ignite a fiery response. They're meant to expose the absurdity so clearly that any response would just make it worse. Rogan never needed De Niro to call in and defend himself. Kelly didn't need to offer him a rebuttal segment. They simply laid out their case like two separate prosecutors who wandered onto the same crime scene and decided to roast the evidence side by side. De Niro's whole act has shifted from Oscar-worthy drama to late-night sketch comedy, and he's the only one not in on the joke. Nothing underscores this shift more than being roasted completely independently by two media heavyweights who have no reason to join forces unless the target is just that easy to hit. At this point, De Niro has become the celebrity equivalent of someone shouting at pigeons in Central Park, loud, theatrical, and still convinced he's delivering a masterclass on truth. Meanwhile, Rogan's audience is in stitches over his savage Hollywood cosplay analogies, and Kelly's crowd is furiously nodding at her precision strikes on clueless millionaires who think wearing a black suit gives them revolutionary credibility.
Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about this publicly?
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
If you're going to come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, you can't just be, he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him.
He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
You probably, if you're going to express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're going to have to do better than that.
There's a particularly delicious irony in watching a man who made his name playing gritty, grounded legends now float several feet above reality, untethered and unaware. The real game changers aren't the ones screaming from golden podiums like it's open mic night at a political rally. They're not the ones who shout into the void and call the echo applause. Real impact comes from insight, not volume. And lately, De Niro's grand speeches feel less like the voice of a generation and more like your angry uncle got a Wi-Fi signal and couldn't help himself. It's the crossover event nobody expected Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly. Two people who probably don't even agree on how to order a pizza. Somehow aligning like synchronized satellites orbiting one flaming, fading star. Robert De Niro.
What about the garbage outside today? Robert De Niro, officially sent by the Biden campaign, makes himself look like an idiot and reminds us why Trump is so popular.
It's so stupid. It was colossally stupid. If you're going to send somebody to go speak outside of the Trump trial, make it someone who's universally beloved, like a Michelle Obama. You know, she's not universally loved. She's not loved on the right. But I'm saying, like, at least within the left and the center left, and maybe even some center righties. Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome.
On one side, you've got Joe Rogan, the cage-fighting philosopher in a hoodie, sipping mushroom tea while unraveling the madness of celebrity activism like it's his favorite conspiracy theory. On the other, Megyn Kelly, the razor-sharp media assassin in heels, slicing through Hollywood delusion with the precision of a neurosurgeon who never forgives and never forgets. They're polar opposites in every way, style, substance, even Spotify playlists. But somehow, they ended up spiritually high-fiving over the smoldering ruins of Robert De Niro's cultural relevance. And it's not just hilarious, it's oddly poetic. This is the media equivalent of cats and dogs forming a jazz band, united for one purpose: mocking the neighborhood rooster who won't stop crowing about politics. Rogan's takedown is drenched in laid-back sarcasm. Part stoner, part skeptic, part, "Are you hearing this guy?" While Kelly's voice hits like a gavel, confident, cutting, and soaked in the experience of someone who's attended enough galas to spot a fraud trying to milk applause from empty virtue.
Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference, and he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense. Why?
This isn't just about Robert De Niro shouting into microphones like he's auditioning for Old Man Yells at Cloud, the musical. No. This is about the glossier, louder, and increasingly out-of-touch reality of celebrity culture itself. For years, we've watched actors ascend podiums with the conviction of prophets, as if their IMDb listings automatically bestowed them with geopolitical expertise, as if portraying a war hero or a crusading lawyer somehow turned them into foreign policy sages. Sorry, Bobby, just because you were Vito Corleone doesn't mean you get to be the Secretary of State. And when you storm the stage, red-faced and raging like you're battling a raccoon in your kitchen instead of making a point, well, let's just say you're not exactly helping your cause. This whole episode, this delightfully brutal 1-2 roast from Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, wasn't just funny. It was a cultural exhale, a national eye roll, a signal from the public that we're done pretending the guy from Raging Bull holds the keys to solving our economic and political crises.